Welcome to the Vintage Ballers Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Coreno. And on today's episode, we have one of the funniest guys out there right now. Comedian, actor, and writer Clint Coley joins the show. Clint is currently the producer of the World Series of Spades, which you can see on Amazon Prime. So without further ado, please welcome Clint Coley. Well, Clint, man, I appreciate you being on the show. And it's fun to have a comedian on the show. And I grew up in a family where my dad, would watch every Sanford and Son rerun, Hogan's Heroes, George Carlin, Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy, you go down the line. I mean, Sam Kinison, Chris Rock. I grew up on all that stuff. So comedy for me and my dad and my family.
First of all, you said Sam Kinison. That's a name I don't hear like a lot of people say like nowadays. Like Sam Kinison is a legend. Died way too soon. He is to white people what Robin Harris is to black people. Like Sam Kinison and Robin Harris are like neck and neck in my opinion.
Well, it's funny because Sam Kinison and then Bill Hicks, another one. Those guys were for at least my gen. I'm 37, but like for my generation, I never really got to see those guys in their prime. I remember.
Right, yeah, we about the same age. I'm 33.
Okay, yeah. So when I was younger, my dad and my older brother and some of those guys would watch. I already knew obviously. We watched Eddie Murphy Delirious and Raw 9,000 times.
Right.
So but it was really, I didn't discover, I knew Kinison because he was in movies and of course he was just a wild man. But I didn't really discover. His stand-up was, I believe he was a preacher back in like the 70s.
Yes, he was. Yep.
Which is hilarious. He ended up turning into one of the most vulgar. For people who don't, the young kids watching, you don't know Sam Kinison. He
Google
was,
him.
Google him because he was phenomenal. And he was in a couple Rodney Dangerfield movies, and he was
he's a guy you had to see it. So I definitely urge anybody who is into comedy or something like that, definitely Google Sam Kinison for sure.
Yes, no doubt about it. And there's so many guys we can go over. I mean, that's a whole, we could have a 2-hour conversation just on stand-up comedy alone. But it's fun to have, a comedian on the show. And, I love your content every day. I'm always laughing my ass off when I see some of the stuff you post.
Thank you, man.
We'll get into the comedy for sure. I want to get into your career. And I also want to get into Philly sports. I'm sure you have a lot to say right now.
I'm a disgruntled fan.
I was going to say with Philly, with the Eagles, and I'm sure you have a ton to say. So we'll get to that too. But I kind of want to throw it back to your childhood in Philly. Yeah. And how did you first fall in love with comedy? And what was your, was there a favorite comedian? Was it, anybody in your family?
I wasn't even, the crazy thing is I wasn't into comedy growing up. Like I can't say it. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I was a big comedy fan. Like I was not a comedy fan growing up. Like I was in the video games and sports growing up. Like that was it. Or in wrestling. So it was wrestling, video games, sports. That was it. I liked movies. Oh, and music for sure. Music.
Likewise.
But I like comedy movies. I was cool. I watched Kings of Comedy when I was a kid. I was watching Comic View at night. But like Comic View was like just the show that I would put on before it's time to go to bed. Like Comic View was always bedtime. So it was Comic View. And then it was BET Midnight Love. That was I would go to sleep to that because I couldn't sleep without the TV on. And I didn't really get into comedy till I was like 19. Like when I started going on stage is when I got into comedy. Before that, I never even thought about being a comedian.
No kidding. That's interesting. When you first decided, how scary was it to get on stage? I could never do. I feel like I can tell a joke here and there, help my buddies, but man, on stage, I don't know if I could do it.
It's scary in the sense of you don't know what's about to happen. You don't know, like you see on TV how it happens, but you don't know how it's going to translate. You know what I'm saying? I could say for me, the scariest thing the first time I got on stage was like, wow, like I really did it. So it's like, now I got to do it. Like it was to the point, like, like I was talking about it, how like it's like a roller coaster and you're like, you're in line, but you're not on it. You're in line, but you're not on it. But it don't really set in until your nerves don't set in until you're rising. Like you're going up that hill, like anticipating the first drop of the roller coaster. Then after that, it's a breeze. You know what I'm saying? And the thrill is in the first drop. You know what I'm saying? And my thing is that like I was saying all week, I'm gonna go to the comedy club. I was saying when the day came, February 7th, 2007, like, all right, man, I'm gonna do this. I get there. I'm like, all right, man, I'm gonna do this. My name's on the list. All right, yo, I'm gonna do this. And then they're like, yo, you next. And you couldn't say, there was no point that I could say, nah, I was next. So I got to do this. My family's here. My mom was there, I think. My dad came. My dad came. A couple of my friends came. It was awful, though.
You bomb?
Yeah, hell yeah. I mean, but I wasn't looking at it as a career either. I was just doing it to prove a point. And then here we are 13 years later.
So, Clint, how did you find yourself in that, 2007, 8, in those years? How did you discover your own rhythm, your own comedy? Because I'm sure it took you a period of years to really kind of find your niche within the,
I didn't really learn who I was as a comedian until I turned 30.
Okay.
So we're talking, I started at 19. So we're talking 3 years ago, like for real. Like, I don't think I'm really, like, now I'm comfortable on stage. I know what I am, and I know what I'm not. You know what I'm saying? I know what I'm out there to do. And I know what kind of brand I have now. Like, I know who I am. Like, I know who I am. And that comes with repetition. So I always had the mechanics, but it came with age and experience too.
Mm-hmm. Did you have anybody in the industry that you really look up to comedy, whether it's a stand-up comedian or someone we don't even know?
Oh, I mean, I used to tour with DL Hughley. So
DL's the man. Oh, I love DL.
Yeah. So, he's the one who, really helped me get my chops, which is not him writing my jokes or anything like that, but he gave me the stage time and the platform to be able to get better.
I read somewhere, didn't he nickname you Wonder Boy, or was that somebody?
Wonder Boy. Nah, he's Wonder Boy. No, he called me the Prince of Comedy after one of his specials. That was like 2012.
Okay.
That was first. The funny thing was, though, like, I don't know if he believed that shit or not, but because, like, we didn't know each other that long, but, like, I don't think he knew, like, in that sense, like, that day, or that him saying that, like, shit, I'm like, oh, nigga, yeah, I'm like, oh shit, I'm the Prince, like, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, it gave me a lot of confidence.
Yeah, I had to. I mean, that's a huge name in the industry, and
yeah.
So looking back at your career to this point, what are some of the highlights you look back and say, wow, I can't believe I did this, or I can't believe I worked with this person? Obviously, DL is huge. Is there anybody else or any other project you worked on that you're like, I can't believe I did this?
I mean, the project I got out right now is called the World Series of Spades. It's on Amazon Prime. It's a television show, exactly what it sounds like. Y'all got the World Series of Poker. We got the World Series of Spades now. So we have, teams battling it out on the table for spade supremacy. If you guys, anybody that knows cards, spades is a very popular game, especially amongst African Americans. That is my biggest accomplishment to this date, because the show is on Amazon Prime right now. So there's 16 episodes out right now. And you have to have a Prime subscription to watch, but you don't, because some content you got to buy it, you got to rent the whole series, and you ain't got to do that. Just, it's free.
So you got to have a Prime membership, and you can watch all the episodes.
Watch it. Yep. And then we got 3 more episodes coming out on January 1st.
When did you first launch this?
It came out September 5th.
Oh wow, it was recently. I know you posted about it, but I didn't realize that was that.
Yeah, it came out September 5th. It dropped September 5th. So crazy thing is, it was just a slow build. Like, it's been a slow, like, people who are finding out more and more about the show as time goes on, because we didn't have a real marketing budget. That was money that I took out of my pocket and did that shit. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm so proud of it too, man. And I'm proud of it because of what I've accomplished. I was able to do it in a year that I shouldn't be doing anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, with, the pandemic, and, losing my father, and losing my grandmother, and losing a friend of mine who was like a little brother to me, like a serious family member, losing an aunt that is like a mate, that, like, I lost, my family and I have suffered a lot this year. And to be able to have a show like that in that, and get it done, produced, you know what I mean? And I mean, like, it's not like no bullshit ass production either. Like, it's legit. Like, this is in 4K. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we not playing with y'all, So, yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I'm proud of that. Definitely proud of that. That is I don't care about anybody I've worked with. I don't care about anybody. Nothing compares to this.
Well, first of all, I'm sorry to hear about your father and your grandma and your friend. I
Cool.
mean, that's a lot of loss in one year for
Yeah, man.
anybody. And I've had scares with my father this year with certain issue he's had, and it's.
Protect that man.
I'll tell you what, like I try to every time I see him now, I appreciate it. 'Cause I don't know if it's going to be the last time. I hate to say it like that, but
Yeah,
we
that's
just
the
don't
that's the
know.
truth. That's the
So
absolute truth.
I completely, I don't understand what you went through. Obviously, I haven't lost my father, but I can
But
understand.
how I'll put it like this, man. You sound like you and your dad are really close,
We
man.
are.
Like that's yeah. Me and my dad is if look, put it like this, we'll argue about who's tighter, me and my daddy or you and your daddy. That should tell you a lot. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, yeah, man, protect that man.
I will. And again, like I'm sorry to hear that. And do you think doing this project was kind of therapeutic for you in a way? Cause you got
So
to,
that's the thing, man. So like, he was my spades partner in real life. Like that's who I played spades with. That's who I learned how to play spades with. That's who I got good with. We learned how to cheat together. Like, you know what I mean? So the crazy thing is I watch interviews of the show, like we did interviews behind the scenes, we did stuff like that, right? And in one of the interviews where I'm playing, like I'm talking about my dad. And this is before he died. We filmed this in February. So this show is definitely 1000% about him.
I mean, again, I think it's kind of interesting how this would happen the same year that he passes away, just because again, it's almost like a tribute to him.
But like literally, yeah, I remember like when we filmed it, I called him and was like, "Yo, man, I just filmed it. Like we got a show called like, you know what I'm saying? Like you gonna like this shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like wait till you see this. Like, so yeah,
Well,
man.
when looking into your future right now, like what do you see in the next like 3 to 5 years with your career? Is there anything you don't have to tell me specifics, but where do you see yourself? Do what do you want to get into? Is it just kind of seeing what comes, or is there you have something in your mind? You're like, I want to.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna see what comes, man. I'm taking some time off to myself, in the for the next couple weeks, you know what I'm saying, to reevaluate. It's funny, you got a page called the 90s NBA, right? And I never forget, right? This is so crazy, right? So I remember watching The Last Dance, and literally, I think the episode where Mike was talking about his dad, I think my dad had passed. Like it was in the same week,
Wow.
And Mike is talking about how like he had nothing to give after that, man. He was talking about retiring before the '92 season. I mean, oh, I'm sorry, before the '93 season, let alone after the '93 season. And so for me, that piece of that documentary was the first time I could actually relate to something human with Michael Jordan. You know what I'm saying? Because that's how I feel. It's like I'm gonna take some time off. I'm gonna reevaluate. If I miss it, I'll be back. If not, whatever. You know what I'm saying? And I'll be successful at anything else that I do, because thank God I have a project now that will keep me good for the rest of my life. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm still the executive producer and stuff like that. So that, I'm not saying I don't have to work again, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, if I want to explore something else, I can do that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But, yeah, so I'm just taking it how it goes, man. Like that's really it right now. That's all I got.
Well, and I think in the grieving process in general, when you lose somebody, I lost my best friend
Yeah.
when I was 19, and I'll tell you what, like back then I was in college, so you don't fully understand what just happened. It's such a shock.
Right.
But as years went on, it took me years to get over his death. I didn't realize it. So when you have someone as close as your father to you, and one of those 3 or 4 or 5 closest people in your life, and you lose
Right,
them,
right, right, right.
it rocks your whole foundation. And I think to take that time off is wise, just to kind of think, okay, what do I want to do right now? Because I mean, you might
Absolutely.
just want to take 6 months off and not, just kind of chill or do what you want to. I mean, that's
Right.
that's to me, the grieving process is different for everybody, and
Absolutely.
you
Yeah.
have
Like,
to
so
kind
for me, like, yeah, I haven't really been, I do a podcast and I kept up with it, but I haven't felt like I got a deadline or anything. I don't feel like, I don't wake up in the morning and feel like I gotta work. Like, I don't feel like that at all. Like, I wake up in the morning, I do what I want until I'm ready.
and that's a credit to where you've built your career.
Yeah.
You're giving yourself that luxury to do that, and I think that's great. And I think, you know, at such a young age, I mean, 33 is still young. I mean, it's not
Yeah,
like
no, I don't feel old at all. That's the
no.
crazy thing. Like a lot, I remember when I was 23, I used to be like, damn, I'm getting up there. But it's like, nah, man. Like, I mean, and it's crazy too. Like, when I was, I mean, even when I look back at my career when I was 23, yeah, we have come a long way. The person that I came a long way with, she's in the other room right now. Like, she's probably listening to this and like, yo, like, damn, like, when I was 23, because I was living in New York. Like we used to, you know, like around this time 10 years ago, I was living in New York, and when I tell you, like, that was I don't want to say it was the hardest like working time in my life, but that was you know how many mistakes I made, like, you know, like from failed college shows to like, man, I'll give you one example, man, real quick. I'm reminiscing. I'll never forget. Like, it's around this time too. It was like November of 2010. I still got the flyer to this day. So I'm doing a show in Boston, right? It's a show in Boston. And it's me, you know, we take an expedition up there. Like, I'm like, this is my first, like, I'm headlining Boston University. So my homegirl, or my one of my friends, his sister at the time, she went to Boston University. She's like, yo, Clint, you funny. We got to get you up here. She made it happen. Little did I know, though, they didn't really promote the show because at the time, she didn't have the time to do it because she was, you know, pledging a sorority. We didn't know that. Of course, she couldn't tell me that. I'm mad at her. I'm like, how can you have you got me up here? It ain't, you know, but that's another story. So long story short, we drive up to Boston from New York. It's me, my cousin Denier, my friend Rita, one of my boys, Desi Johnson, he was my opening act. My boy Artuda, he was my DJ. Like I'm like 6 deep in this car. My cousin Dwayne. Now, mind you, we're talking all of these people. I'm not paying nobody, but I got a whole entourage with me. Like, we get up there, man. Mind you, I'm doing the show for free. That was the word. I think I was doing the show for free. Nobody was getting paid. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, but I remember nobody came to the show.
Oh, God.
Oh, I was hot. Like, I hate Boston for that reason. Like, every time I go to Boston, like, in true Sixers fashion, like, every time I go to Boston, like, I make it personal. Like, my last show in Boston, true story. I'm not even making this shit up. My last show in Boston was recent. Well, not recent, but like one of the most recent shows was around this time last year. That's crazy. Like, we did a show in Boston. No, it was January 3rd. And yeah, I had to get a standing ovation at the Wilbur. Nothing else. Like, every time I go to anybody that listens to this podcast or this show, and if you ever see me in Boston and I'm doing a show, just know it's fucking personal.
Oh, okay. It's great you said this because about half my family is from Boston. From New
when
Hampshire,
when I go to Boston, it's time I'm trying to drop a triple double. No, it's like, you know what I mean? Like, I take Boston very personal. Like,
all my cousins out there, you hear that? You got to get
like when I go to Boston, I'm Dr. J, motherfucker. I'm grabbing you by the throat, like I'm not playing. Like, that's an iconic
great
picture, by the way. So I got to get that picture on my wall.
Oh, is an iconic picture. Yeah, we got to get in some Philly sports here in a second. But okay, I want to talk to you real quick. And this is probably a generic question that you get a lot, but who is on your Mount Rushmore of stand-up comedy?
Mount Rushmore. On stand-up comedy.
Stand-up comedy. Yep. I mean, we can go on. Yeah, stand-up, not just writing or acting. Just stand-up.
Stand-up.
Just stand-up.
Chris Rock. Dave Chappelle.
Oh yeah.
He just got there though. He just got there.
He's had a lot of stand-ups recently that I loved.
He's been dropping. I mean, outside of just because of course he's dropping specials that really aren't funny. He's just talking, but he's earned the right to do it. So it's like, yeah. So there's Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock. Because I just think Chris Rock, pound for pound, is the best comedian that's ever walked this earth, in my opinion.
Probably. My dad used to listen to his when he came out with albums back in the mid '90s when he was on SNL. And I'll tell you what, there was some. My dad would play him in the car. I was probably 12 years old. And we'd laugh our asses off. Oh, it was the funniest thing. I mean, to this day, I still remember some of the stuff he was saying was just hysterical.
I tell people, Chris Rock's "Bring the Pain" is literally like, I'm as a hip hop fan, like if you're a hip hop fan, whatever you feel is the perfect album, that's what "Bring the Pain" is to me.
Yes,
it was perfect, like flawless victory. Like I don't think there was a bad there's no bad joke on that special. Like I don't feel like there was ever a part where I'm just like, like everything was funny.
Oh, he was
dialed in at a point that I've never seen a comedian dialed. Like I've never seen nobody that dialed in. Like he was not playing with y'all that day.
Oh, I agree. I mean,
he was, and they said that at the time he was performing like his career was on the line.
wow.
So, because his first special, Big Ass Jokes, didn't do that well. And, you know, he was off of Saturday Night Live. That's over. He's now kind of becoming like the loud, annoying guy in movies. And they're trying to figure out like, and he knocked this one out. So, but yeah, so there's Chris, there's Dave. I'm going to go George Carlin.
Love him. Love him.
I'm going to go George Carlin. And then my fourth one, I'm having a tough time because it's really between Richard Pryor and Bill Cosby. And I say that because, yeah, I'm going to just go with Richard. I'm going to go with Richard.
It's hard. Pryor is just,
yeah, I'm gonna go with Richard. Yeah, and I'm not. And the crazy thing is, I've never seen Richard Pryor live though. I've never seen Cosby live either. But at least those other, no, I haven't seen Carlin live either. But like my thing is, I'm gonna just have to go Pryor, just off of the influence that he's had on comedy, and how other comedians have tried and failed to do what he's done.
No question about it. And I think Pryor, I mean, I knew about him just because my dad, he would watch him all the time when we were younger.
Like, so he's just that guy. But Cosby was poetic.
Yeah, he was. I mean, Cosby influenced a lot of people back then.
He influenced Richard Pryor.
And obviously with what happened with him, you know, people don't always come out and say that, but there's a lot of comedians that do talk about how he influenced them, whether you hate him or love him.
Well, listen, I'm not saying I separate the man from the action, because I think I don't. He's a menace, or he was or if you know whatever that they said happened, and it was true, he deserves anything that he gets. But that does not take away from the fact that you cannot tell the story of stand-up comedy without him.
Yeah, I mean it's true.
Or you can't tell the story of even black television without it. You cannot. Or no, not even black, just television. The story of sitcoms. You can't, he, regardless of what we feel about him personally, throughout the 80s, black or white, The Cosby Show is regarded as it's either the best or top 5 shows ever, sitcoms ever.
I mean, everybody watched it. I mean,
everybody.
So it's one of those shows that, again, taking the personal stuff with him is a whole different conversation. But
right,
just his entertainment aspect, and you know,
right. Like I said, I'm not making a pass for him. He is a piece of shit for everything that he's done to women. But yes, you know, But yeah, so I'm gonna go Pryor. You know, Pryor, Chappelle, Rock, and Carlin. That's it. That's my Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, it's hard to argue that. I mean, those guys are all phenomenal, and those are guys I couldn't argue.
And honestly, there's about 8 or 9 you can interchange, and you're not wrong.
Easily.
I
think in his prime, Eddie Murphy was up there with anybody.
Yeah, no, Eddie Murphy is just that I can't put him above those other guys.
Oh, agree.
Just because he hasn't done stand-up wise, he hasn't done more than that. You know what I'm saying? Right. You know, he only has 2 specials. I mean, not to say that that's wrong or right. But, you know, I wouldn't be mad if somebody put Kevin Hart in the Mount Rushmore. Yeah. I mean, say what you want to say, that like he is, you know, I wouldn't be mad at a Bernie Mac. I wouldn't be mad at a Jerry Seinfeld. I wouldn't be mad at a Ellen DeGeneres stand-up wise. I wouldn't be mad at that. Moms Mabley. Yeah, you can interchange a bunch of people and really, you know what I'm saying? Whoopi Goldberg. Oh,
Whoopi, I forgot about Whoopi.
She has I think she has a Grammy for stand-up.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Wow. Like she's one of the ones where, you know, like she doesn't get her flowers the way she should, but man, Whoopi funny.
Oh yeah, I mean, and years ago, and you mentioned even Seinfeld, like because of his success on TV, you don't really.
Yeah, no, Seinfeld is funny.
Oh, I'll tell you what, he has a very unique brand of comedy, obviously.
Yeah, and some people is either you like it or you don't.
Exactly.
He was not the first, but he perfected dry humor.
Yes, I completely agree. And even you look at Rodney Dangerfield was another one I think that, I mean, he obviously
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You
started,
can definitely throw him up. Yeah.
you know, he was just such a unique guy and such a
Yeah.
unique, and he
Yeah.
brought so many comedians into his play, you know, back in the 80s.
Yeah. You can say Lenny Bruce. There's a lot of
Lenny
guys,
Bruce.
man.
Oh,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
There's so many different people, but that's why I love comedy. It's such an interesting thing to talk about because
Right.
depending on your sense of humor. Now, I'm the kind of person, I have a pretty,
Yeah.
wide array of humor that I like. So I can get into a Seinfeld. I can get into the most vulgar. I can get into a
Right.
Pryor. It doesn't.
Right.
I like all of it, but
Mhm.
it really depends on what kind of comedy you dig.
I agree.
So, but yeah, I can't argue with anybody on that list. And like you said, there's another 8 or 9 people you can interchange, and it'd be hard to argue any one of them. So
I agree.
okay, let's switch gears a little bit here and get to Philly. Your love of sports
yeah,
in Philly.
man. Yeah, let's talk about it.
So growing up in Philly, okay. So when I was in, I think 5th or 6th grade, AI was freshman at Georgetown,
Okay.
and before he was with Philly, obviously, but I've never seen anything like him before. And
So
I remember
I can't even say that I remember AI at Georgetown. Reason being, you got to remember his rookie season is 96, 97. I remember him getting drafted, and I remember the bonanza around it. But I was 9 years old, so I didn't really watch college basketball like that at the time, unless I knew like a generational talent. So like there was hype about AI, and it was like, oh, AI. But like I remember the following year, like Tim Duncan was the man. Like I remember like everybody was like, yo, Tim Duncan. That was the name I kept hearing in college basketball. And I think in 96, it was Marcus Camby I actually kept hearing about.
Yep.
I just didn't
UMass.
but huh? Yeah,
Yep,
it was
UMass,
Marcus.
yeah.
Yeah, because so that's the thing. So I followed around that time. I didn't follow college, but I followed Temple basketball. So like I remember like Mark Camby was dogging us because they was in Atlantic 10.
Yep.
Yeah, Marcus Camby was the one. He was dogging us year at like I remember hearing his name all the time.
It was funny. I interviewed a guy named Abdul Fox who played for Rhode Island back then in the E10, and he was a great player.
Yeah.
And he played against all those guys. So we were talking about how loaded Eddie Jones was, back in
Yep,
those days.
Eddie Jones. Yep.
I mean, he was like, it was loaded back then, and people forget.
Shout out to John Chaney. Yeah, man.
Oh, John Chaney. I mean, the classic. I mean, you got Al Skinner, all those guys. So
because I only followed Temple because my dad went to Temple. So my dad went to Temple, and he was a big he was a big John Chaney fan. He was a big fan of the fact that he always used to preach to me, be like, yo, he did it the right way. Like he would recruit players and make sure that they graduate on time. That's what's important. And I was like, but they're losing. Like they're losing.
Cheney was he's an absolute legend. I mean,
absolutely.
I love hearing all these old names because it brings me back to the day. I was a huge college basketball fan back then, and my brother was a really good high school and college player back in those days. He played for NAI school in college, but he was a leading scorer. He led the city of Cleveland in scoring in 1991.
Oh, dope.
He knew a lot. I mean, he played against the Fab Five in tournaments, and so he knew a lot of different people.
Especially and that's the thing. So like a lot of my when I get older, I got guys who I went to high school with Cal Lowry.
Oh, really?
9th, 10th grade. Yeah, we had a class. We had 2 classes together in high school.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, like these guys, and like I mean, but then there's guys where I remember when LeBron came to Philly in like 03. Like it was a big thing. He came to Philly. And he played. It was his team against Mustafa Shakur's team. Mustafa Shakur had
I remember him. Yep.
That was like I think it was either Mustafa Shakur or like Maurice Rice at the time was really big and feel like it. It got like that era. I remember like from around like late 90s to early 2000s. Or hoops was definitely college and high school back. I was really into that shit.
Now I know you were real young at this point, but do you remember anything about Kobe at Lower Merion or no?
I don't remember. Like he wasn't like I can't say what he wasn't, but I don't remember. Like I didn't follow high school basketball at 9, so I didn't know how big of an impact Kobe had at the time. So I didn't know.
Yeah, I didn't know about him until he got drafted, obviously.
Right.
And one of the guys I had in the show, Keith Kloss, I think he coached Kobe because he was. I guess the classes would coach each other. He was a class of '95, and they would coach the '96 All-American.
Oh, that's dope.
So Keith, Kobe was on my team. So he'd always, and I can't remember the exact story. I don't want to misquote Keith, but something about I don't know if they make a bad player lose, whatever, he would have him run laps. So the last time he saw Kobe, a couple of years ago, he's like, Kobe came up to me. He's like, hey, coach, you're not going to make me run laps, are you?
That's cool. That's a dope story.
That's a really cool story. I mean, Keith is
a
cool
dope
dude.
story, man. Kobe. So I just remember 96 Philly basketball. I remember we were god awful. I do remember that. I remember going to the Spectrum. My dad used to take me to games at the Spectrum. My dad, Ironically enough, my dad was a Cavaliers fan.
Was he really?
I swear to God. So I knew
why was that?
I had no. He liked Brad Daugherty. That's why.
Yeah, no
My
kidding.
dad liked Brad Daugherty. I had no idea. Like he was like, "Yo, I'm a Cavs fan." I always thought that was weird. Like I was like, we would go to Sixers game together, but it would always be like they would play. We would go see him play Jordan. We would go see him play the Cavs, and like anytime like somebody maybe he wanted to see play, we would go see it. But like I remember, like he was a big. He liked Daugherty and Price. Like those were his guys.
Oh yeah, they're still legends here. Oh yeah.
Those were his guys. But I remember we were god awful. I remember we had just drafted Jerry Stackhouse the year before, if I'm not mistaken.
You're right. Yep.
We had Stackhouse, so that was like a big deal. We're like, oh, we got Stackhouse, and now we getting Allen Iverson. Like now it's on. You know what I'm saying? Like I remember, like it was a big deal. Like he was everywhere taking pictures. Like we were very excited for him. And then I remember I was at the game when he crossed Jordan.
You were there.
I was there.
Oh wow.
That was I remember that shit like it was yesterday.
That was one of the most. Go on.
But I don't remember. But here's the crazy thing: I didn't know what was because like, I was 9, 10. Like I didn't crossover was cool, but like crossing over wasn't really cool till we started like watching AM1 mixtapes. You know what I'm saying? So like at the time, I just remember I just thought he made a shot. I thought it was a good shot. I didn't know he shook. I didn't know he shook him and then made the shot. Like, but yeah, I was there. I remember that game. We lost that game too.
But still, to be at that game, I mean, that's one that place still, talked about. Almost 25
absolutely.
years later.
Yeah, no. Look, Allen Iverson never won a ring, but he could hold on to the fact that he shook the shit out of Jordan.
He did. And what kind of impact did he have on Philly sports? Because it seemed like just his overall personality, he was so different, and he was such a. I think it was Shaq who said, pound for pound, he was the toughest guy in the NBA because he would dive on the floor. I mean, as a superstar, you don't see many superstars diving like that.
I have 3 opinions on Allen Iverson.
Okay.
The first opinion I have on Allen Iverson is how he revolutionized the sport as a person, like as a persona, as swag. Like you never had at that time, like you gotta remember, like even in Philly, and we'll talk about it, and I'll be honest, Philly's a very racist city. Like we don't want to say it, but I'll say it. Like Philly's a very segregated and racist city. Like Philly is Boston, but just covert. You know what I'm saying? Like they won't say it to your face, but they no. So anytime we had a black star, he had to be like Dr. J was clean cut by the time he got to Philly. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, like, he was clean cut. Like he wasn't, even though he had the fro and everything like that, but he wasn't defiant. You know what I'm saying? Allen Iverson was defiant. You know what I'm saying? Allen Iverson was the people's champ. And white people had no other choice but to accept him because he was that good. You know what I'm saying? So he changed, like, so there was that Allen Iverson, the guy who like, Allen Iverson let me tell you something. He used to have TGI Fridays on City Line Avenue look like the club. Literally. Wow. He would hang out at TGI Fridays or Hula Hands across the streets. Like he's not at no expensive he's at Fridays after a game.
And there's
it was a show in there. I mean, I was too young to really be there and experience it, but they had to ban him.
Wow.
Because he was just like, but he was our champ. Like that's what he has. Look, he never won a ring. Dr. J did, but he's way more loved in Philly than Dr. J is.
It just seems everyone I talk to that's from Philly, Iverson, they light up right away. Oh yeah, man.
We love Allen, and then that's the second thing. Allen Iverson was a tough guy. Not like on no like I'm a push you around type stuff. He just wasn't afraid of nobody. So his game on the floor was definitely like how Philly play, like how we go to the rack. You know what I'm saying? Like sacrifice your body, sacrifice your arms, sacrifice whatever you got to do to win. He was scrappy. He played deep. Like we liked Allen Iverson. I mean, you know what I mean?
That game 1 against the Lakers. I know they lost the series, but that was one of the most iconic moments.
First of all, nobody in Philly could have thought that we were going to beat the Lakers that year. We didn't think nobody. The way
Kobe and Shaq were playing, the way the Lakers were playing,
nobody thought we would win the championship. We were just like, can we get a game?
Yep.
Like that's all we cared about. We was not trying to. I don't think winning the championship was on our mind because we knew Shaq was in his absolute prime. There was nothing you could do with him. He was putting Mutombo in the spin cycle every game. Like, and then what's worse, and then you got arguably, the greatest player of all time also on the floor too. Arguably, I'm not saying he is, but
one of the greatest for sure, no doubt about it.
You could, yeah.
Yep.
With that being said, then my last issue with AI, or my last opinion on AI. AI is the reason why we won. AI is also the reason why we didn't win. AI was selfish. AI did not want to share the basketball. AI did not want the help. We traded away help. They wanted to make his non-commitment to doing the work off the court. He did not want to go to film room. He was not committed. He was always out. No, he was literally, if AI worked out and stuff, we would be having a different conversation.
Were there any, free agents or anybody that wanted to go there that didn't, because it was, I didn't know the situation.
The league wasn't as mobile as it is today, though.
No, it wasn't. You're right.
You know who reminds me of Allen Iverson?
Who?
Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, I can see that comparison.
Like, I mean,
athletic,
AI is a better shooter,
ball dominant.
But the same guy to me. They play the same way. Russell Westbrook, gritty, tough.
Yep.
But he gets in his own way sometimes. Allen Iverson sometimes got in his own way. A lot of times, actually. Don't forget, he was scoring 50 points, but he was doing it on like 30 shots.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, you can't win like that.
Yeah. I mean, he's such an interesting player to look back on because he was very ball dominant. And then you'd have some people who would say, well, he had to be ball dominant because they didn't have any scorers on the team.
He didn't want nobody.
But that exactly. Then you have other people who would take.
They traded away Stackhouse. They traded away Larry. They didn't want nobody.
By the time you guys got C-Webb, he was already over his prime. He was past his prime. That wasn't like an in prime C-Webb. So
no, they didn't. If we would have had Chris Webber in 01,
it'd be a different story.
It'd be a different story because Chris Webber was playing for the Kings at that time.
You're right. Or in prime Mutombo with C-Webb, that would have been a whole different story right there.
Yeah, and you got to remember, Mutombo was not the thing was Mutombo was great defensively. He couldn't score at all.
No, you're right. He wasn't a scorer. Nope. No, that's a good point.
And then nobody else could score on that team. Like, remember this? Listen to these names I'm about to tell you. Eric Snow, George Lynch, Tyrone Hill, Aaron McKee, Raja Bell was on that team. Matt Guy, these guys, come on, man.
Good defensive players, most of them, but not necessarily scorers.
They not turning they not banging no head, not scoring no buckets.
No, you're not going to get 25 out of any of those guys usually, depend.
No, the stat line was AI would score 30 and everybody else would score somewhere between 9 and 12.
Yeah. Yep. No, it's hard to win any championship. Beside the only team I could think of that was even remotely close to having just one star that won one was when Dirk won it, because Jason Terry was playing out of his mind.
But that might be the only team.
Yeah, it might be the only team because no disrespect to Marion or Jason Kidd, they were older then. They weren't what they were.
Dirk Nowitzki was the guy.
He was the guy.
Yeah.
And he singled. Yeah. Yes, him and Jason. I'll give props to Jason Terry. He was phenomenal too.
But he's not. Nobody looks at Jason Terry as a number two.
No. So he was a nice complimentary guy off the bench, great sixth man. But yeah, right. Dirk was. I've never seen anything like that with Dirk in the finals.
Damn, that's crazy. I really didn't think about that. They are the only team that I can remember that did not have a serious. And you're right. Or two all-stars.
Exactly.
Because I was getting ready to say Toronto with Kawhi, but Kyle's an all-star.
Kyle's an all-star. Yeah, and you could say that too. But I'd also say, and this is no disrespect to Toronto, but if Durant and Clay are healthy, I think that's a whole different series.
It definitely.
I think Golden State in probably 5 or 6. I hate to say that, but it's the truth. As from Cleveland, we had to face those guys every year in the finals, and they were almost. We had Kyrie and K Love healthy in 17 with LeBron, and we won one game.
Right. Yeah. Right.
So it's like they were. We had KD with the big three. That's
KD. That was the best KD we've ever seen.
Oh, yeah, best KD we've ever seen. And you had the 2 best shooters in the world with Draymond. You're not going to beat those guys. And Iguodala and Livingston, no way.
Yeah,
you ain't beating those guys. So. No disrespect to the Toronto fans out there, but I just don't see. I don't see how that would have happened if they were healthy. But they got the championship. I love
that's
the fact
why the game has to be played. That's why the game got to be played.
Exactly. So let's go to Eagles football real quick. So okay. I know you never got to see the one guy play. You were too young, but Donovan McNabb, and Randall.
I saw Cunningham.
Oh, you did. Okay, I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, we saw Cunningham. Yeah, no.
Okay, who better quarterback, McNabb or Cunningham? In your opinion, when they're in their prime?
Are we talking about just pure talent?
Just pure talent. Who would you take for one game? You had to win one game. You take Donovan or you take Randall?
I'm taking Donovan McNabb. And I'll tell you why. Because if you're saying if I got to win one game,
Just one game.
that means that it's more than just like I watched Donovan McNabb win with nothing. Like when I'm telling you nothing, like I mean his best season was with T.O., but other than that, he was throwing Todd Pinkston and James Thrash and Freddie Mitchell, and he was throwing the guys that he wasn't throwing to nobody. You know what I'm saying? So that, and I've seen him lead us to big victories. I've seen him come back against Green Bay. I saw him do 4th and 26 against the Green Bay Packers. So I'm going with Donovan for sure.
You guys should have. I mean, even I think it was 2008. You guys played Arizona in the.
We should have
won that game. You were.
We
up.
should have like the fact
was
like in my high school and college years. I'm very upset that we only got a Super Bowl appearance out of that.
You guys were good. You guys were one of the top 2 or 3 teams every year in the NFC. Every year. And that 2008, I remember that game. I think it was Kurt Warner was the quarterback of.
Yeah, man. No, Larry. We had nothing for Larry Fitzgerald.
Oh, he was unbelievable, and they really should have won the Super Bowl. If it wasn't for Big Ben that last drive with the Steelers, they would have.
We had nothing for Larry Fitzgerald.
He's still he's a Hall of Famer, no doubt about it.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
I think they have Anquan Bolt. I think they have Bolden then too. They have Bolden and Fitzgerald, so that was about as good as you could get.
There was nothing we could do with that.
No. But that was a year I remember thinking, God, Philly's going to get there again. And if it wasn't for Belichick and Brady, you guys would have had a Super Bowl in 2004 too.
Well, I mean, we had a couple of missed opportunities, man. We should have beat the Panthers in 2003. We should have beat the Buccaneers in 2002. The only time I felt like we were in the NFC Championship game and we were outmatched was when we played the Rams, when they lost to Brady the first time.
Yep.
But other than that, we should have beat the Buccaneers. That was the last game in Veterans Stadium. We should have beat the Panthers. They weren't the better team in my opinion. And then, finally we get over the hump, but you run into the greatest dynasty in sports ever.
Exactly.
Outside of the Boston Celtics, which I think the Patriots dynasty is way more impressive than that one.
Because the modern era, and you have salary cap, and you're right.
It wasn't even just that; it was just way more teams. Like I don't even really respect Boston's championships prior to 1970. I'm sorry.
And a lot of people say that. And I respect the hell out of Bill Russell and those
guys.
I
respect him because you know why? Because he was beating Wilt every year.
Yeah, and then that's about.
He was beating Wilt, and I mean, this is somebody from Philly. Like he was beating Wilt every year. Like, and you talking about Wilt supposed to be the most dominant dude, and every year your man's is like, well, you're like, yeah, Wilt, you go ahead and score 40, but I'm gonna score 20, 10, or I'm gonna have 20 points and 20 rebounds,
and I'm gonna get that ring on my finger, at the end. Yeah, I mean, those are because even in Cleveland with the Browns, we had a ton of championships prior to 1970. Prior to 1964, we had 8. So
exactly.
Where do you put that? I mean, obviously it's not a Super Bowl, and I understand that. So we always get in these debates. Does it really matter? Jim Brown is another guy. I mean, Jim Brown to me is
and that's the crazy thing. We respect Jim Brown. We do recognize Jim Brown as one of the greatest running backs of all time, regardless of what area he played in. But the Cleveland Browns, the franchise, y'all have no Super Bowls, just like even with the Eagles. Well, before we won a Super Bowl, I don't give a fuck that we won in 1960.
Exactly. It's like trust me. Do I want to brag about?
If it's not the Super Bowl, I don't respect it.
Do I want to brag about 8 championships in the 40s, 50s, and 60s? I do, but I can't because what is it going to mean? It's
right. So that's what I mean. That's why I mean. Like the Boston Celtics, y'all won all them champions. Like to me, the Celtics got the two rings they won in the 70s. And then they won 3 in the 80s, and then 1 in the 08, in 08. Other than that, them other championships is garbage to me.
Yeah, and I definitely give them, especially the 80s with that era.
The 80s ones, that was
legit. That
was super legit.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about going against the Lakers, and
they played not even that though. They had to beat Philly to get there.
And then they had and at the end they still had to deal with a rising Detroit team in the in the mid 80s. And then they had to beat Olajuwon in the finals. The one, Olajuwon and Ralph Sampson, and they were that's
they had to
Parrish, Bird, and McHale, those big 3, they were legit.
But the crazy thing is what they don't tell you in the history books is that just as much as Boston and Lakers played in the finals, Philly and Lakers played in the finals just as many times. So we played Los Angeles in 80, 82, and 83. We beat them in 83.
Yep.
Boston played them in, I believe, 86, 85, 86, and 87, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I think you're right. Did it 85? Yeah, definitely 85. 86, I think they played Lakers. I'm sorry, they played the Rockets.
So it was 84, 85, and
Yes,
87.
yes, that's it.
86 they played the Rockets.
Yeah, Olajuwon, they upset the Showtime Lakers that year. Yep.
Yeah, so 84, 85, and 87. Yeah. So yeah, like that's like, and think about it. Boston had to beat Philly to get there, but like we fought a lot in the 80s.
Well, I was listening to Isaiah Thomas talk about. He was talking about The Last Dance. I was watching a video a couple of days ago, and he was saying that people forget about Philly. It was the team. It wasn't just Lakers Celtics. It was Philly.
No, it was
in the 80s. It was Philly, Detroit, Lakers, Celtics. Those four teams right there. So you always leave out Philly and Detroit, but those teams were just.
And then you could add Houston just because they went to the finals twice.
Agree. And with a lot, with Ralph Sampson, 7'4" Ralph Sampson and Olajuwon together. Now Ralph was hurt a lot of the time, which is why they didn't go anywhere in the 80s. But I was winning it all. But you gave Olajuwon any talent, that guy was gonna. He was another. That's the dream's a different story. He was just incredible.
Right.
Team. But yeah, you can add the Rockets in there, and I'll tell you what, not to rep Cleveland here, but the Cavs had some legit teams in the late 80s.
No, they did.
Before they trade Ron Harper. Heck,
they had a great team. I think that's probably why my dad was a fan. Like Cleveland wasn't trash.
No, and it wasn't for MJ. We would have played Detroit in the Eastern Conference Final. We would have been there every year.
Now I got a question for you about Cleveland.
Okay.
Right? So right now, y'all are in the playoffs.
Well, right? Not yet. Don't jinx.
No. I'm saying if the season ended today,
yes, we would.
You're in the playoffs.
Yep.
Now you have to win this week. Who do you play this week? You play
Jets.
You don't play the
Jets.
Jets.
The Jets. Yeah.
You should win this game.
We should, but it's Cleveland.
You should, but it's Cleveland. Then you got to play so basically Baltimore has to win their last two, and you have to win your last two to get in. Bottom line.
Yes.
Anybody loses one.
Well, we can get in if we win this weekend, and either the Titans, Ravens, Colts, or Dolphins lose. We're in. One of those teams has to lose in the next 2 weeks, and we have to win one, and we're in.
Okay, so then
Baltimore has to win both.
Y'all control y'all destiny.
Yes, we do.
Does it happen? Do you believe in Baker Mayfield?
Right now, yes, I do, and I'll tell you why. You have to look at the situation.
Such like you sound like a Cleveland fan. You're
Trust
like,
me,
I want to have hope, but
we've been hard in this town. You have to remember back when we grew up, Jordan breaking our hearts.
I watched the Cleveland 30 for 30.
Oh, it was the most heartbreaking. I'm telling you, Clint. Like you can't unless you lived it. It's anybody you talk to. I don't care if I was watching. I think it was Crazy Bone or Busy Bone. One of those guys talking about just
right.
You have to be here and you have to experience the heartache that we experience.
Well, I'll say this: we perform in Cleveland once a year.
Okay.
And even just the spirit of the city, it feels sometimes cold and hopeless, because Cleveland's a serious blue collar town. They are not that's not a.
Not fake or some BS. Yeah.
No, Cleveland's a serious, hard working, and you guys been loyal to these teams, man. So I see why LeBron leaving meant so much.
And I appreciate you saying that, because even with LeBron, now we're cool with them. Everything's cool with LeBron in Cleveland. But it wasn't.
He gave y'all a championship.
How could you argue it? The guy came back and did what he said he was going to do.
Yeah.
I have nothing but respect for what he did. And looking back on his decision, I think a lot of Clevelanders would tell you this. Not all of them. Some would still.
He had to do it.
A lot of people would say he had to do it. And looking back, if I would have known how it all turned out, Clint, I wouldn't have cared. I would have said, go to Miami.
Listen, we got quarterback controversy in Philly right now.
We're going to get to that in a second, because I want to ask you about that.
But at the end of the day, we don't have this quarterback controversy if Carson Wentz doesn't get hurt that year and we win the Super Bowl with him.
That's true.
But guess what? We win with somebody else. And ask me if I care.
Oh, I would care a lot. Give me a Super Bowl. That's all.
Somebody was like, "Yo, do you feel like you wasted a draft pick?" And I'm like, "We got a Super Bowl out of it."
Exactly.
We want. He's the reason we was in contention. So maybe that was his purpose in Philly.
He was having an MVP season. He wasn't just a couple of those years.
No, he was going to be. Yeah, he was the man.
Yeah, and that's why So getting back to Cleveland real quick, let me answer this question.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. Most of the fans, and I feel I can speak for most fans, not all of them. But I think we have a view of, especially with the Browns, when you're beaten down. I used to go to games as a kid, Clint, and my dad had season tickets. So he had season tickets from 1970 or 71 to 95 until they left to go to Baltimore.
Oh, that's
So
dope.
I'm still bitter about the whole Baltimore thing. It's just because they won 2 Super Bowls without, and that was
Yeah.
our team.
Yep.
What you're seeing there is our
That
team.
is your team. Yep. Art mode. Yep.
I'm sorry, Baltimore fans, but that was our team.
I agree.
So we had to have an expansion team come in, so it's a whole different franchise.
Yeah, it's
But
not the same. Yep.
Not the same.
Remember drafting Tim Couch and
yeah, we had and Couch actually he had some talent, but he had nobody around him, and it was a disaster. The whole thing was just one disaster after another. And when you lose a team, when you literally lose a team, that kind of feeling, it's like imagine if the Eagles just left Philadelphia and you guys had no football team. I mean, you guys would
we never know what that's a tough.
That's what I'm saying. And then you have to face the city that took your team and they beat you every year. It's like, I mean, it's a rough feeling as a sports fan. So, and you have to see them and the Steelers have all the success and win Super Bowls. And, Cleveland fans have been through a lot in that respect. And then you have to remember we lost 2 Game 7 World Series in extra innings, 2 Game 7.
2.
So Cubs and Marlins, heartbreaking. So, and then of course, LeBron leaving the first time. Now we're cool with the Cavs can do no wrong. They won the championship. LeBron, we're cool with them. But for a while, that was heartbreaking. So it was just one of those things that for 50 years, literally, we didn't know anything but losing and being heartbroken and screwed over.
Yeah, Bernie Kosar, all of that shit.
All that stuff. I mean, the Elway, beating us, drives a fumble, and they had the Browns had great teams back then, but can never get past them. So now I will say, after the Cavs won that championship, it kind of gave us a little like, okay, we won, good, we got that chip off our shoulder. With the Browns, now this is the next step of the Browns because they were so terrible for so long. For 2 decades, worst franchise in all sports for 2 decades, really, if I'm to be honest about it. And now, I mean, I will say with Stefanski and Andrew Berry as GM.
Real quick, I think the Knicks have that title.
I think you're right. Now they do. But I would say it was definitely neck and neck because
for sure.
Prior to this last couple of years, it was neck and neck because the Browns were 0-16. And the Knicks, the Knicks have been.
You just can't go 0-82 in the NBA. It's really hard.
Exactly.
It's really hard to do that.
But the Knicks fans, I have a lot of Knicks fans on my page, and they're always like, "Man, I can't take any more of this. We got to start winning here." Because I mean, and how passionate Knicks fans are.
And it's New York.
It's New York, and they're like, "Man, I can't take this losing." But with Cleveland, with the Browns, I do have faith right now. The reason why is because I think they have a coach, they have a GM that know what they're doing. We didn't before. Not that these guys we had before were completely inept, but they just weren't a fit here, or they just tried to do it their own way, or there's egos involved. Now we have a GM and a coach who are on the same page and they know what they're doing. And our owner seems to be kind of staying out of it, letting these guys run the show.
That's a big deal.
A big deal. And, there's no more. It just seems like everything. And we have, Nick Chubb and Garrett and these guys. And I know what happened last year with Miles was a big, a lot of controversy, but Miles off the field is a good dude. I mean, if anybody who knows him, he's not the guy that obviously what happened.
Yeah, no, that was a bad moment.
It was a bad moment. And he'll always have to, reflect on that and always have to deal with that. But for the people that I know
he's playing lights out too.
He's a complete stud. And, Nick Chubb and Jarvis and these guys, they're great guys. And they just have a blue collar mentality.
They have chemistry in there.
And they have great chemistry. And Baker's toned it down. Baker just doesn't.
He has toned it down.
He had to tone it down you can't be talking back to the media when you're losing.
He's buckling the fuck down and he's doing
exactly
the work.
What he's doing. And that's why it's working.
I follow his career only because my favorite sportscaster is Colin Cowherd.
Oh yeah, I watch Colin all the time.
I love Colin, but he hates Baker Mayfield. But actually everything he's ever said about Baker was correct.
It was. And he even this year, Clint, he kind of called this turnaround a little bit. And he said, look, I think he's going to have a better year.
He said he's going to win some games.
Win some games. I don't think he thought he'd be this good by the end of the year, but he, and he's given Baker. He's giving him props. He's saying, look, I can't. I mean, the kid's playing well, and he's not talking back to the media, and he's playing well right now. And that's right. The thing is that Baker, if you get Baker in the right system, the right coach, and you get his head in the right way, because he's a competitor. And he has some talent. He might not be, obviously no one's in Mahomes class, but
but he ain't trash.
No, he ain't trash. And that's what people thought last year. They thought, this kid's not, he's a bust and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, nah, I mean.
No, it was Freddie. It was a lot of Freddie Kitchens, man.
It was. And I'll be the first to say that I was down on Baker. And I
didn't like the play and the arrogance on top of that.
Neither did I at all.
Because like if you're gonna be I get it. If you're not winning, okay, but be humble. But he's like not winning and talking shit.
And I think it was, to me, last season and what he had to go through was the best thing that could have happened to him. Because either he was gonna go one of two ways. Either you go to, he was gonna either be out of the league in a couple of years, or you're gonna be what you're doing.
This was his season. He had to. This saved his job.
It did, and it not only saved his job, but saved his entire career. Because I think from now on,
Absolutely.
I can't imagine him regressing too much at this point.
No, he won't.
So,
Nope.
if they can keep this going, I'm not saying he's a Patrick Mahomes or that kind
No,
of guy.
but
But
he'll get you some games. He'll get you in the playoffs. And now we
exactly.
just got to see if he can win in the playoffs.
Exactly. And I would never have thought Baker Super Bowl ever, a year ago. But,
Right.
and this year, no, because our defense is just not that good. But next year, if they build a defense, with our running
got to
game,
remember, he's still on a rookie contract. Y'all could
yes.
spend some money.
And they will. They're going to get some defensive guys this year.
Y'all going to get rid of. Y'all don't need OBJ.
Yeah, and that's another thing is OBJ is, that, I mean, you look at Baker without him, and the statistics bear out.
You're going to get very good value for him. I don't think he's a free.
He has 2 more years on his contract. OBJ does.
Y'all can trade him.
So I think it's $20 million a year if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know. We'll see what the market
y'all can
is.
Trade him, get him off the books. Y'all probably won't get a first, but you'll get like maybe a couple of second round. Y'all get something for him.
And we'll see how that turns out because there's a lot of debate in Cleveland about that. Some people want to keep him, and they think, oh, we got to get, and other people want to get rid of him. So
the way that they're performing, you don't keep him because he's not. He's going to come back and he's not going to fit in.
All I know is that without him right now, they're looking pretty damn good, and the defense has so many holes that how could you overlook those holes?
Here's why: you guys don't have to force getting him the ball. You can now run with your offenses, which is you're not Baker dominant. You're run dominant. You have Kareem Hunt. You have Nick Chubb. Boom. And then play action, and then you throw the what's the tight end's name?
Hooper and Bryant and Njoku, and they're loaded.
Y'all got weapons.
Oh yeah.
Then what I would do is and it's just a shame that you don't have like a Joe Thomas like you did back in the day.
Although Wills is the rookie.
But if you can get a good pick and then I would get an offensive lineman or get somebody on that secondary. Y'all can win the North.
Oh yeah, I mean next year I think with the defense is what they got to clean up. But if they do, they're going to be interesting. And
absolutely.
So okay, let's go to Carson Wentz real quick. As of right now, what do the Eagles do?
Carson Wentz will never play another down in the Eagles uniform.
You think that?
He won't.
Okay. Do you trading a trade in the offseason, obviously, or how do you?
You got to trade him. You're gonna you got to figure out because teams gonna want him.
I think
the talent.
I think there'll be a couple teams that will want him. I really do.
I know exactly who's probably going to end up getting him.
Colts.
Yep.
I thought about it. Only reason I thought that
either Indianapolis, San Francisco, or Chicago.
Yeah, I can see all three.
But definitely Indianapolis because of the relationship that he probably has with Frank Wright, and we know that he has not been the same since Frank Wright left Philadelphia.
That's a great point. I think you're probably going to see that. And I think if Carson never turned his career around, especially in Indy with the team they have, they'll be dangerous. They'll be dangerous.
So Indianapolis has a great defense. You trade for Carson Wentz, you could throw the TY, but you get some more running game around him. Colts are a problem, and that division is not that well. No, they got the Titans, but now you have a legitimate quarterback now.
Exactly.
You don't have Phillip Rivers, old butt. You don't have Jacoby Brissett filling in. You have a legit quarterback. And right now, Jalen Hurts is the quarterback of the next year or so. And I think that what they're going to do is Howie Roseman and them is going to build around Hurts and what he can do because he's going to be on a rookie contract when we don't have to pay him.
Do you see Hurts? Do you think this is more of a mirage what we're seeing, or do you think he can sustain this for a couple of years?
I think that they're going to get tape on him, and then we're going to see what we got. I think he's going to come. I think he's going to go on. We're going to win the last two games. I think Washington's going to drop their last two games because they got to play. One of them is against us, and their other one, I believe, is against. I forget who they're playing this week, but they're not playing an easy game, and they got to play. And they got to. Oh, they're playing the Giants, and the Giants still have something to play for. But not only that, Dwayne Haskins is your quarterback. Not to say that he's bad, but we don't know. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see.
So moving forward, where do you see, and let's talk about the Sixers real quick. Do you want to trade for Harden?
No, I don't. He doesn't play winning basketball.
Very ball dominant.
People are talking about trading Simmons. I'm like, let me see what he is with Doc Rivers first.
Yes.
Let's see I'm going to make this about race for 2 seconds. Sometimes you have a black man, because I think that Embiid and Simmons, people really don't understand sports psychology. They think sometimes it's just X's and O's. They don't fit on the court. But also, I got reports that I knew Embiid and Simmons really don't like each other like that. Now, you got somebody like Doc Rivers now who's like, hey, You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying Doc Rivers is this wizard coach because he's actually outside of that '08 season, he ain't really done much. You know what I'm saying? But I would like to see what they can do with a guy that they respect. They didn't respect Brett Brown. They respect Doc Rivers. They respect his pedigree. They know that he knows basketball. They know that Doc Rivers knows people. You know what I'm saying? And we'll see.
I'm really interested to see what Doc can do there. I think you guys pick up Danny Green and a couple other guys.
We got Danny Green. We picked up some shooters and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I just don't feel like we need to give up all that stuff for James Harden. He does not play winning basketball.
I mean, when you look at Harden and Westbrook really as talents, they're phenomenal talents. There's no debating that. I mean, they can, especially Harden, he can
They just don't play winning basketball.
But that's the thing is that when I think it was a game 7 against the Warriors a couple years ago with Rockets, and I think they went like 3 for 27 from 3-point land.
He wouldn't drive to the
and I thought, like, what are you guys doing? Like, you guys they could have won that game, and
I've seen Harden quit on his team.
I mean, with a guy like Harden, we'll see how the next couple of years play out. But I just don't see, like you said with Westbrook too. Like, it just doesn't seem like they get enough people involved.
I would be very upset if the Sixers traded Ben Simmons for James Harden. I would be.
Okay, I was curious about that.
I'd be very upset.
What do you think the sentiments of most Philly fans are?
The ones who know basketball know it's a bad idea.
Okay. I mean, Simmons is so young. It's like, I don't know if I would give up on him at this point.
Yeah, he's only 24.
Yeah, and again, the kid's already had a nice, I mean, I know
23 or 24.
I know he's got to improve his shooting and all that, but still,
he has
phenomenal talent.
He can average a triple-double without shooting.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, let him develop. Like, I'm just saying, we'll see what he does with Doc. Now, if I don't see it, then it's time to break it up.
Yep. Okay.
So this year, I want to see a to me, man, I mean, I need the Sixers if the Sixers don't make the Eastern Conference Finals, we need to blow it up.
I was just going to ask you that. Like, how far do you guys need to go? Okay.
At least the Eastern, at least. And I mean, not just get there. I mean, we need to be like, it needs to be a tough series.
I would agree. I think you got to give Doc 2 years to kind of see what he can do with it before,
right.
As far as trying to get to the finals. You can't just expect it right away. But I think,
I need to see I need to see I need to see something different in this Sixers team. If I don't see it, blow up Embiid and Simmons.
I agree. I mean, they're both phenomenal talents, but right now it doesn't seem like I'll be honest, I've never felt the chemistry between them. Like when you watch them on the court, I just never felt that
they just
chemistry.
don't. And it's like, we'll see if it's different this year.
Yep. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. You're one of the teams I'm really interested to see how you play as the season goes on.
The East is deep now too.
It is. It really is.
Like, you got Miami.
Giannis is staying now in Milwaukee.
You still got Boston. You got Brooklyn. You got Philly. You got Milwaukee.
Yep.
You got 5-6 teams that can win the East.
You do. It's going to be fun to watch. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's switch gears and stick with Philly sports. But, you had the Phillies win the World Series in 2008. You had the Eagles Super Bowl a couple years ago. You've had, obviously, the Sixers haven't won it in quite a while. But what team do you think means the most to Philly?
I was getting ready.
Flyers.
So during what you were saying about Cleveland, and you said, like, when the Cavs won in 2016, like, it was like, oh, that's cool. Like, we were happy when the Phillies won. Like, it was like, oh, this is great. Like, we got it. Like, we were just happy that the Phillies, like the Philadelphia sports team, has a championship. But when the Eagles won, it was just different. They mean the most in the city, hands down.
And I was wondering about that. Like,
yeah, we're Eagles first, Sixers second. I'm gonna say Phillies third, and then I'm gonna say Flyers fourth. But yeah, but we're not like Villanova basketball. We don't care about Villanova basketball that much. I mean, it's cool, but we don't even, because they're not from Philly. Now, if Temple won, that's a different story.
Interesting. You always forget Temple, the Philly, how they're in Philly. So it's like,
Temple is in Philly. Like, yeah.
Because here it's pretty much the same. Browns by far. It's the
I already know. Yeah.
Now the younger generation though, it's interesting though. You talk to my nephews, the Cavs would be their favorite team.
Well, it's because of them growing up on LeBron and stuff like that.
They grew up with that, so that's all they know.
The grown-ups, it's the Browns first, and then it seems like it's really the Indians.
It is. Now we love the Cavs, obviously. I mean, I love the Cavs, but you got the average fan in Cleveland, they would probably put the Cavs 3 older Cavs or older fans. So anybody over 30, 35 would probably put Browns, Indians, and then Cavs. You're exactly right. And Ohio State's huge here too. They're huge. Everyone's Buckeyes fans. So the whole state of Ohio is one big Buckeye fan. But yeah, the Browns here is just like a religion. I mean, people, and for as bad as we've been, now I must have got 10 texts yesterday when they, after the game, and I mean everyone's excited. And again, it's just like you haven't won anything in 20 some years. So when you finally start winning, it's a great taste. But yeah, I had a funny feeling you would say the Eagles. It's just anybody I know from Philly, Eagles is
wanted to
always the
confirm.
first thing they want to talk about.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. All right, so a couple other things I wanted to get to. With, when you look back years from now, Clint, at your legacy as comedian, writer, director, producer, what do you want, like the younger generation coming up, what would you want them to know about Clint Coley?
Damn, you got me, man. I want them to know that I don't know. I'm not even gonna try to fake an answer, man. I don't even know.
I like that. 'Cause it's an honest answer.
Yeah, I don't even know. If I think when I find the answer to that, I might be able to give you something, or even give my career something. But I don't have that answer right now. And for me to just sit here and make up some shit off the top of my head, and I could do that if I wanted to. But yeah, I want him to be, funny and blah blah blah. Like, I'm at a stage of my career. I don't know yet. I don't know right now.
And you're in the prime of your career. So, I mean, you're not,
Yeah.
That's why it's probably something you never even thought about. But I love asking that question to people, no matter what point of their career, just to see what they say.
Right.
And I'm kind of the same as you. I don't even know what I would say at this point.
Right, man. I'm not. Yeah. I couldn't even tell you.
Okay. And moving forward, where do you see yourself? You live in LA. What part of LA do you live?
I live in Long Beach.
Okay. Oh, really? Long Beach. No, I used to live out in Venice and Culver City years ago.
Yeah, I live in Long Beach. Yeah, I love Culver City.
Yeah, I live right. You know where Tito's Tacos is?
I know exactly where Tito's Tacos.
I live like not even a block from Tito's Tacos. I
love Culver City.
Oh yeah, I was. It was funny because I lived there for about a year out in LA, and obviously a West Sider. So I never really realized how like separate every part of the city. Like the girl I kind of dated was in, I think, North Hollywood. I barely even saw her.
So here's the thing: everybody got to realize, like, Los Angeles there's Los Angeles County, and then there's the city of Los. Like Culver City is in the city of Los Angeles, but
yes.
like, North Hollywood is in the county of Los Angeles. Just like Long Beach is in the county of Los Angeles. You know what I'm saying? Like, so when somebody's like, yo, I live in, like, my cousin don't live, I live, in Long Beach, and I got, like, if you live in, like you said, you lived, your girlfriend lived in North Hollywood, like, I'm an hour away. Like, that's far. Like,
that's what I'm saying. When you look on a map, you're like, oh, this isn't that far, and then you get in the freeway, you're like, screw this. I'm not sitting.
Right.
In
I ain't coming.
traffic.
Right. Exactly.
No way. So I mean, I used to go to Brownsbacker's bar in I think it was somewhere in West Hollywood. I think it was in, and it took. Now I left early because the game started at 10 a.m. out there, obviously. So I would leave at 9 o'clock to go there, and there was nobody on the roads. But then you get out of the game, and you
it's packed.
Really get home.
Yeah.
So that's just LA for you. But it's funny when you said you're out in LA, I just started laughing.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I miss LA. I miss a lot about it. I miss obviously the weather and all that. There's so much good to LA.
Right.
But yeah, it's a Long Beach. Okay. Cause I've only been to Long Beach a couple times. I haven't really been, I haven't been in the coast.
Yeah. I didn't really come here until I moved here though. So it's cool.
Okay. Yeah. So, what is your favorite part about living out, in LA? Is there any one or two things you enjoy the most?
It's really just the weather, man. Like, it's the weather, and it's calm. It's not busy where I live. Like, it's relaxation. Like, I live by the water, so you know what I'm saying. Like, I can see the water.
Yeah, you can't beat that at all. I still got a lot of friends out there, and I love visiting. Like, whether it's San Diego, LA.
San Diego's dope. Yeah,
San Diego's great. So I love SoCal. I got to get back out there at some point.
Yeah.
You got any jokes for us?
Nah, not today, man.
We'll have to have you on again. We got to get a couple jokes out
man.
Of you. Well, Clint, again, thanks again for coming on. I appreciate your time, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you, man.
Let's do it again soon, all right?
Hell yeah.
All right, man. Salute.
All right.